Hey Shane, it's me, Hat, from Welcome to the Hat. Um, anyways, I'm wearing this hat to make this video less depressing. It's like, so people are like, oh look, he's wearing a pink La Cucaracha hat. And I'm talking very seriously, so this is just for comedic relief, just be like, oh, okay, okay, I don't know, I might take it off, okay, screw it. Anyways, yeah, death, it's a pretty big thing, and, I've had deaths in my family. I got kind of creeped out because it seemed like it was like for a long time, for like about 4 or 3 years. It was just like each year there'll be somebody new dead in my family, which was really creepy because it's like it kind of started like right when I made this really big change in my life. I don't want to necessarily say what that change was, but it was really good. It was a really positive change in my life. And then it was like boom, right then, my granddad died. So I was really sad. I remember when my mom told me, my mom's like, okay, your granddad's died. We're gonna have to go to, where all my rest of my family is to have his funeral. And I was kind of like, okay. I was like, alright, it's like, go to your room and pack. So I ran into my room and then I started packing, and then all of a sudden I just like broke down and cried. I was just like, cried straight in my bed. I was just crying like really bad because I really did love my granddad. He was really awesome. He was a really cool guy. He worked for so long. He was really sick, up to this day. But I'm a Christian, so uh, he was saved. So it's kind of like, okay, all right. It's kind of like I'm a Christian. I know some people who might watch this video might think, it's like Christianity really like is his soul. He really going to heaven. But as a Christian, I know. I'm talking from my Christian perspective because I'm a Christian. That's who I am. I'm glad because I knew he was saved up to the end, and so I know his soul rests in heaven. And I think it's kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes, how ways to cope with it. One is definitely crying. I mean, crying is not like a sissy thing to do at all. Crying is like the best thing. I remember sometimes I just wanted to cry. I just wanted to cry because it just seems kind of like the life is just all up in your face, and it's kind of like I just want to cry. I just want to break down and cry because it's like, I don't know, because water is always talked about as beginnings, and evolution talks about we came from water, so it's kind of like water is just kind of like another step. Like every time you cry, it's kind of like you grow as yourself. It's like you're a nautilus. Every time you cry, there's a new chamber of you grown because it's like you're crying out all that pain and all that sorrow. And it's coming out as water, or whatever tears are made out of. It's coming out as tears, and it's just falling out of you because like when you're crying, something's coming out of you. And mucus is like your face is all ugly, but it's like you're changing. It's like anytime you cry, it's kind of like your life is moving on. It's like I'm taking that next leap. I'm, crying, and then poof, it's like gone. It's kind of like I've just made another step. I've just climbed up the ladder of life. So crying is really good. If you're like a crybaby, like you cry all the time, then crying isn't the best thing. If you cry over every little thing, crying over spilled milk, but it's kind of like if like a dead family member dies or something really dramatic happens to you and you cry, that's really like a movement. Like if you cry every day, then that's not crying because you're always stepping up. It's like really traumatic happens, or you cry because you're really happy because something really good happens. There's crying because it's like all that hard work or stress is like coming out of you, and like you're crying because you're happy because it's like you did it. It's got like any negative thoughts that people said to you saying you won't be able to do this. You're crying because basically all those thoughts that are rambling in your head while you're trying to see that goal are just coming out because you did it. So it's kind of like pressure's off. So crying, good and bad, in no matter what circumstances, really important circumstances, really life-changing circumstances, is really good. So crying is a pretty good thing because it shows, really, crying shows maturity. If you're crying because of something good or something bad has happened, it's kind of showing maturity, kind of showing, okay, that's happened, I need to move on. That's kind of just your weepy moment. And it's really, you kind of should stay there in your weepy moment. Like, that should be the kind of the thing. But, yeah, so it's kind of, and you might think, oh, well, if you're a dead person, somebody dies, it's just spilt milk, so don't cry. No, cry because you're trying to let out any, that's that's like your sorrow. That is like your release. That should be your release, is to cry. So if you're gonna, because you always see those movies, as people, they're tough, and it's like, then somebody that's really close to them dies, and they're kind of just like, whatever. It's like, okay, well, they died, and it's kind of like hard for them, but they're kind of like, I just gotta move on. But then, they can go for years, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person dies. My whole life is falling apart because that person dies. Like, no, calm down. You need to cry, okay? You need to cry, because you're not showing maturity if you don't cry. So you need to cry. You just need that release, because it's kind of like just washes you. It kind of cleans you off. It's like, okay. But it's like, probably because you know that person was sick for that long time, it cleanses you. You need to cry. Honestly, if you can't cry, throw some pepper in your face. You need to cry. Also, other coping mechanisms, like if they pop up in your mind or something like that, remember the good old times. This is like storehouse theory I've studied, and it's like how we store up good memories. And so if you have good memories of the person that passed away, hey, those are your good memories. Those are the things that remind you of those persons, and like the good that they did. And also purpose. Shane, you also talked about this in your video. Purpose is like, sometimes you gotta think of it differently. Like, this person probably died for a reason. It was probably just their time to go. It's like, because really it's kind of hard, because it's like, a person dies so young, a person dies so old. I think of it kind of like, I don't know, when I will die, it's probably because I've done all I can. Like, like, yet again, from a Christian perspective, God has set me here to do something, and if I die, that means I fulfilled what he did. Like, I did it. So I think that's kind of how death is. It's kind of like, alright, you did what you had to do, now what? Like, seriously? And you think people drawn out living so long, it's kind of like, why haven't you kicked the can? It's probably because they haven't completed their goal, or, they haven't even started yet. But yeah, I think it's kind of like, if you look at death like, oh, well, they're moving on, they're going into the next chapter. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like they did what they had to do in this world. If you believe in the next world, they're gonna be glad in that next world, but only if you do. If you believe that, they're gonna be glad in the next world. But I mean, if you don't, then it's like, you just know that what they did in this world, they completed. That's for everybody. Also, suicide is a very creepy thought. It's really satisfying. It's like, no, not satisfying, sorry, slip of the tongue, but it's kind of like traumatic. It's like, suicide is a big deal. Don't do it. That's kind of like the best way. I mean, say you're a spy and you have to give secret information, and then you kill yourself because you don't, because that can jeopardize somebody. It's not a sin. You may think, oh, you're a Christian, don't you think suicide's a sin? No. I mean, if you're killing yourself because you're sad, it's like everything's just going wrong, it's kind of like you're not able to do it. You're just not, you don't have the drive, and you're just thinking suicide's the best way. Don't do it. No, don't. Please, don't. No, please, because you're not hurt, because it's not, you might think it's satisfying to yourself, but it's not. It's not satisfying to everybody else. Because you just make everybody else that sad if you do it. So, I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, you still have people that love you. Everybody, there's always one person in the world that loves you unconditionally. In the world, and of course, if you believe it, outside of the world, or all around you, loves you. But also remember that, I believe, sorry, phone is ringing. Hold on. Sorry, I'll talk louder. I always believe that of course I'm a Christian, so I believe God loves me all the time, but I think it's like there's always one person in the world, like a human being, that will love you unconditionally, always. It might necessarily not be your parents or your best friend, but I believe there is always that one person that's just like your buddies with for that whole entire time, that will love you unconditionally. So don't commit suicide, because it makes everybody around you sad. And if you're kind of taking my advice, there's always that one person that loves you. So don't, because you might not have met that person before, but you have to strive to beat that one person, because you guys are like soulmates, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. So remember, you have